What's up, YouTube? Northeast Ohio here for the weekly update, week in review. What's been happening, what's been moving, what's been shaking. YouTube nonsense down below. Click like buttons and stuff. Let's get into it. A couple product things before we jump into market stuff. I want to touch on a couple different things. One, clearly Donruss came out this week. And yes, that's the name of the product. This is a new release. It's essentially a variation of base Donruss, but the cards are an acetate finish, so they're essentially clear. They're $3.50 a box. I'm not getting any. I'm not looking to get any singles of it. Early reports are they are centering nightmares, and there are some weird print lines. And they're just not coming out, quote unquote, pack fresh. So, and I don't think they're going to hold value extremely well when you start spinning this stuff forward. A lot of these ancillary products like this, they're fine, they're fun, whatever. It's a good rip. But my general theory behind most of this stuff is if I am willing to spend money on, say, a box of Donruss clearly for $3.50, I would rather put that money towards one of the core 3.5. We talk about this all the time. Prism, Optic, Select, and kind of Mosaic. Any money that I put into basketball cards is 9 times out of 10 going to be going into one of those core 4, if you will. I get the appeal to some of this other stuff, but most of this stuff the market's going to forget about, and it's just not going to be that big of a deal in a couple years. Sure, if Ja Morant is the next king of the world in the NBA, are all his prices going to go up? Yes, but I would rather put that money into his Prism and his Optic and his Select that has much, much higher ceilings than these oddball products. So I just wanted to touch on it because it came out. My general stance on a lot of this non-core product is stay away from it. Unless you PC someone and you like to look up a card or whatever, that's always fine. Our tact is to take this from an investing / making money / flipping perspective. So is what it is. I don't have a screen up for this, but I also wanted to comment on Prism Draft is hitting the markets. I think it hit this week or it's about to hit any day. There's been some box openings of it going around. Personally, I wouldn't touch it. Sure, you could probably eke out some small profits here and there on it, etc., etc. I would 100% not pay secondary markup prices if there even are any. I'm sure there are, because welcome to 2020, for Prism Draft or Contenders. They're lesser product of the two, but especially Prism Draft. One, in any normal year, the college stuff falls apart the second real NBA product comes out when these guys are in their pro uniforms. The college jersey stuff does not hold value at all. At all. On top of that, no one knows who the hell any of these guys are. There was no NCAA tournament. There was no basically college basketball last year. Yes, people know the names, but there's very little buzz around any of these guys. Also, for all intents and purposes, this draft class sucks, according to every expert out there. Now, what the hell do they know? Yes, there's probably going to be at least 2 to 3 really good players out of this class. The difference is no one knows who the hell they are. The number 1 pick, no one knows who it's going to be. No one knows. No, we haven't seen a draft like this since the Anthony Bennett draft, where there was no clear-cut number 1 pick. Rip Cavs for taking Anthony Bennett over Victor Oladipo, who I wanted them to take. Anyway. So, and I don't think whoever goes number 1 is going to be Anthony Bennett level bust, but there's just no clear-cut number 1 pick. There's just not a lot of buzz around this draft class. Don't go throwing your money away at this 2021 college product. It's not worth it. Don't buy the singles. Don't grade them. Just stay away from it. Save your money for other stuff when the real products start to come out. or put it into the 2019 class. So, end of rant. Let's get into the actual market nonsense. So to start off, I just have the general price movement by card chart up here in Market Movers, and I'm looking at the last 7 days. And what I'm mostly curious about here is the number of sales. It hasn't really started to tick up a ton yet, but I'm guessing this is essentially, and in some cases you've already missed the boat, this is your last chance to get on the bandwagon for NBA season stuff. The season is basically all but coming back on December 22nd. And the next couple weeks are going to be rapid fire NBA shenanigans. We are going to have a draft. We are going to have free agency. We are going to have trades. And it's all going to hit in like a 7-day window. It's going to be nuts. There's going to be Woj bombs left and right. All sorts of craziness is about to happen. And I think that is going to stoke the flames for the NBA market. The kindling is already there. The fire's been started. It's smoldering. People are blowing on it, putting dry leaves on it, etc. And I really do think it's about to catch. And prices are going to start going drastically up. We're not seeing huge advances yet. In some stuff, we are. Some of these trendy guys, their prices are on the rise now or already on the rise. You haven't missed the window yet. Not in all cases. Zion and Ja are still pretty flat in some cases. Almost Freudian slipped and said fat when talking to Zion. Whoops. So I was just curious for the number of sales to see who is moving in this full off-season market. And the number one person on the list, and is on here a couple of times, is Ja Morant, quickly followed up by Zion. So those are still two the most popular, most moving cards. And a lot of that is because a lot of their product is still hitting the market. There's been a huge stock of Mosaic restocks. People are ripping those and selling them. And in fact, you see Morant's Mosaic base is the number one card on the chart with the most sales. Makes sense due to the restocks. And then right below that, you see the Zion base Mosaic. Same thing. You actually do see their prices creeping up in that, which is surprising given the fact that there was a restock. You think that the flood of the inventory would actually take it down a bit, but I think we're starting to see, like I said, the market pull out of this. We're not necessarily seeing it in Prism yet. I didn't pull charts for these, but their Prism prices are basically flat to slightly creeping up. If they're going down, it's by like 1/3 of a percentage point. So let's get into some individual charts that I pulled out for this week. And the biggest one was the one that stood out to me the most. And it really moved. It's Kobe White's Prism Silver Raw. This card in the last 7 days went from $100 to $250, up 124%. This thing flew up, and it did it over multiple days. So it's not just like when I see stuff like this, one of the first things I look for was, is this just 1 or 2 sales on a particular day that spiked it? And a lot of times I'll ignore that stuff until I have more data points. In this case, it went up for 3 days straight. It went from around 100 to 150 to 200 to 250. So it basically jumped $50 each day. Now only 7 sold this week, but that's a big price movement on that card. And Kobe White has been very buzzy the last few weeks, really since Billy Donovan got hired there. Kobe White's been extremely buzzy, and he's been picking up steam. Now, the interesting thing, Prism Silvers are typically, when they make a large bump, they usually go first. We always talk about Prism leading the charge when it comes to price movement. Prism Silvers are even leading of that. It goes Prism Silvers, then the rest of Prism, and then everything else is the hierarchy in terms of price movements typically. So the interesting thing here is either someone got drunk because it was election week and they went on a buying spree of Kobe White for some reason, or there's real movement here in the fact that we saw consecutive days of sales prices going up. However, it has not trickled down to the base yet. This is the base cards. This is his PSA 10, his PSA 9, and Raw over the last 7 days. And you can see they basically stayed flat. One is down 0.1%, one is up 1.9%, one is up 1.5%. So they're basically the same price. They've changed $1. And once again, over the last 7 days. What this tells me, if you believe in this movement on the silver going up 100 and some percentage points in a week, these are probably due to go up too. And some of it just could be because of the natural as we approach the season. And some of it could be because someone's making a move on Kobe White and they're going for the silvers first. I would expect to see, if it follows standard patterns, base Kobe Whites start to ratchet up here very quickly, just based off this price move of the silver. We see this a lot where the silver leads the charge and then the bases follow. In this case, the bases have not caught up yet because this just literally happened the last 3 days. So I'll be curious to see going into next week's week in review, does the base prisms move on the Kobe's? So next card. Anthony Davis. He has been in a free fall since the NBA Finals. However, it appears the market says no more. To start this week, he had bottomed out around $1,200. And then to end the week, and this is his PSA 10 Prism, this card has jumped up to $1,800. Up 40%, a $550 change. Let's blow this out a little bit further so we could kind of see the price movement. Let's go back 60 days. So right here is the tail end of the finals at the beginning of September. Nosedived, came back a little bit, nosedived again, and now is on the rise again. Personally, $1,200 is way too cheap for an AD Prism in my mind. He's one of the best young players in the league, and he's going to be in title contention as long as LeBron's around. And this is a fairly low pop card at around $1,300. The least surprising thing ever is to see this card starting to go back up again. With the NBA season approaching, LeBron, my guess, going to take a semi-back seat to the start of the season, given the short turnaround. I could see AD easily being an MVP candidate this season, depending on how the Lakers come out and how bad they want it. I could easily also see them just coasting through the regular season to get into the playoffs since they had the fast turnaround. But it appears AD is out of Lakers jail. I did not pull the data on this, but a lot of LeBron stuff is also starting to creep back up again. But this was a much bigger price movement, so I pulled that one out specifically. But it does look like the Lakers stuff has dropped to the point where the market's saying no more. It's time to start buying. Plus, with the season coming back as well. We literally just talked about this card on Friday. Luca 2019 base Prism Raw, just in the last couple days, is up. It's only $5, but it's 20% because it's a lower value card. But we are seeing on the graph the upward trend line over the last 7 of this card. Not surprising. Like I said in that video on Friday, at one point in time, this was almost a $50 card. I don't know that I see it getting back that high, but Luca is going to be the hype monster this season. All the hype was around Giannis last year. This season, I think it's all going to be around Luca. Giannis is going to get a lot of talk too, especially if he does not sign his extension. We'll know that in a couple weeks here. But I think Luca is going to be the ultimate hype machine after the way that he exited in the playoffs last year with those just insane games on basically one leg. So we are already starting to see the incline on his 2019 Prism. Speaking of Luca, I wanted to take this a step further and look at his 18 stuff. 18 Prism, I pulled PSA 10, BGS 9.5, and PSA 9. Interesting thing here, his high-end PSA 10 are basically staying flat, but the low end, not the low end, I mean, still talking about almost $1,000 to a $500 card. The lower end Luca is going up. His BGS 9.5 is up 20%, and his PSA 9 is up 10%. In all honesty, and I know the pop count on this is high, we're at 14,300 or whatever on his PSA 10 Prism. A couple things I'll say about that. It's really not that big of a number. It is, but it's not. Not for a player that's as popular as Luca, and the international markets. I wouldn't necessarily want to long term hold it, but for short term and even the next couple years, not a problem. I'm not scared of that number at all, assuming he stays healthy. That being said, this $1,300 to $1,400 price range on his PSA 10, if you're sitting on mountains of money, I would be buying these up right now at $1,300 to $1,400. Let's not forget where this card once was. Let's go back 90 days on this. That should be enough to capture everything. Give this a second to load. 90 days ago, back in early August, this was a $2,000 card. I could easily see Luca PSA 10s, maybe not necessarily getting over 2,000. Could I see it happening? Absolutely, depending on how he plays. But I easily see this card going up at least another few $100, $300-400. I could easily see it getting to 14 or to, I'm sorry, to like 1700-1800 easily. And I would not be surprised to see it crack 2K again, and even blow through that number if he comes out and just starts going crazy, or they make a big move. But Luca, I would be full buy mode on anything I could get my hands on Luca that I could afford. Like we talked about in the video on Friday, the Luca specific video, look around the edges if we can't afford his high-end stuff, go for the 2019, etc., etc. Speaking of Luca's running mate from the 2018 class, Trae Young, last 7 days, his PSA 10, PSA 9, both up about 10%. Once again, we are starting to see movement on a lot of these guys going up. We've been saying this for weeks. And it's still continuing to climb on a lot of these guys. You could still get in on the relatively low end, but I think it's only green from here for a lot of these buzzy / trendy guys. And once again, I think once this NBA offseason news cycle kicks into full gear, we're about to put the election craziness behind us. Hopefully get back to some semblance of normalcy, pandemic aside. But I think people are going to be ready for a distraction with the NBA offseason news cycle coming. And I really do think that could stoke the flames for the basketball market to go full crazy mode again. We shall see. Last but not least, for the most part, Zion is flat or slowly creeping up. However, for whatever reason, people are in love with his optic base. This card really went up the last 7 days. Up 50%. So for $20, started at 40, ended at 60. And I can see, I really like the optic. We talk about it all the time on the channel. I think this is just a decent market correction. I think 40 is too cheap for his optic base. I didn't realize it got that low. That was, I forget what that was at its peak, maybe around $60 to $80, if not higher back in the day. So I think for $40, that's a good buy. Getting up closer to 60, if you're in the Zion, I think it would be a good short-term flip. But I'm personally not in the Zion for a long-term hold. That's just me. So that's all I got for you guys today. Once again, like buttons, all that nonsense. Links to market movers and the coupon code, which is still active, down below in the video description. If you have any questions, let me know. And we will catch you guys on the next video, whatever that may be. I do not know yet. So, peace.